Hello, this is Ant Stoneman, and you are listening to The Poet's Lighthouse. For those lost out at sea or those that stay adrift for far too long, search for the light. I hope the day has been easy on all of us. I hope the night has given us our full rest, and I hope that those who are feeling lost and alone out there just know you're not. Today is Sunday, and the sun was out today. It was pretty warm. I have some brown drapes, and the way the sun slept against the window and fell to sleep, it was a very lovely color that I painted my walls with. And I wanted to talk about that. Love. And I wanted to focus on 4 different types of love, although love is just a circle. 4 points of tangency in love's circle. And whether you love Cupid or you find him repulsively disgusting, we all have loved at one point or another. And we were never the same. And that'll bring us to our first poet, one of Canada's most revered poets, Robert Bringhurst. In his poem, "These poems," she said. "These poems, these poems, these poems," she said, "are poems with no love in them. These are the poems of a man who would leave his wife and child because they made noise in his study. These are the poems of a man who would murder his mother to claim the inheritance. These are the poems of a man like Plato," she said, meaning something I did not comprehend, but which nevertheless offended me. "These are the poems of a man who would rather sleep with himself than with women," she said. "These are the poems of a man with eyes like a drawn knife, with hands like a pickpocket's hands, woven of water and logic and hunger, with no strand of love in them. These poems are as heartless as bird song, as unmeant as elm leaves, which if they love only the wide blue sky and the air and the idea of elm leaves. Self-love is an ending," she said, "and not a beginning. Love means love of the thing sung, nor of the song or the singing. These poems," she said, "you are," he said, "beautiful. That is not love," she said rightly. And it does take quite a while until you realize or you see love in its full picture. And so, you then begin to question yourself, where do you fit in this painting of love? And that brings us to our next poet, who was born in Brookline, Massachusetts, Amy Lowell, with her poem, "The Taxi." "When I go away from you, the world beats dead, like a slackened drum. I call out for you against the jutted stars and shout into the ridges of the wind, streets coming fast, one after the other, wedge you away from me, and the lamps of the city prick my eyes so that I can no longer see your face. Why should I leave you? To wound myself upon the sharp edges of the night." Love just gets all intertwined in itself and overcomplicates everything. And that's why we always just keep coming back for a love we know, because we're too afraid to go find another. And that brings us to our next poet, who was a poet and philosopher, Elsa Gidlow. And this is her poem, "Come and lie with me." "Come and lie with me and love me, bitterness. Touch me with your hands a little. Kiss me as you lean above me. With your cold, sadistic kisses, wind your hair close around me. Pain might dissipate this blankness. Hurt me even wound me. I have need of love that stings. Come and lie with me and love me, bitterness, so that I may laugh at things. Cupid shoots us and our heart fills to the brim with blood that tints our eyes a red hue. And there goes all the red flags. And at times we just settle. We choose to ignore the pain of the thorns on the stem of a rose because, well, they gave us a rose." And our next poet touches upon that. When we finally start coming to the realization that it's not going to work. When you have someone who doesn't want to settle, someone who fights against the waves. We have Jamil B. Howe with his poem, throbbings. Zainab complained against me to the judge of love. He has sly eyes, she told him, which roam around me to devour my beauty. Judge of love, I am not safe anymore. I think his eyes are two bees raiding the honey which sweetens my lips. I see them as two eagles hovering in space, descending to snatch me. I think, and from my fear, I think strange things. God knows how much I suffer from my thoughts. He invaded me with his eyes, and as if this weren't enough, he tried to lower my standing among people. Hypocritically, he said, that I have stolen my beauty from the universe, and that it is not created naturally in me. That I have plundered the morning for a face, the dusk for a hair, uniting both in me. That from the gardens I have stolen the flowers for cheeks. My cheeks are rosy. That I have covered my neck with pure snow, and that my eyes are tinted with narcissus. When my voice enchanted him, he denied it, and said, It's a nightingale singing in the garden. With sword-like glances I struck him, he said, and in his deep red blood I dyed my fingertips, and in his poems he chanted alluding to me. So people said, His meanings are necklaces of pearls, Lord of verdicts, administer your justice between us. Enough of his straying in love, I've had enough. When the time of complaint was over, the judge asked me, What is your answer? You who are so passionately in love. I said, I find that I am a criminal. My insanity may not be deferred. She has dispossessed me of mind and heart. And that was Throbbings by Jamel B. Hoey. Love has a way of dancing with you in circles, and it's too late until you realize that the love has guillotined your head right off. But love has a favorite song, and it always asks you to dance. One step front and two steps back. Love is not that simple, because it comes from the gods. And that leads us into our next poem by Miley, untitled. I want to be blown out like cigarette smoke, have that kind of good feeling on people when they're stressed and hopeless. I want to be that addiction, to be wanted and wanted over and over again. There are a lot of non-smokers out there, and I seem to be just a problem to them. A toxic disease, still addiction into my eyes. I want to swim into people's lungs. I am willing to make you go through hell for you to feel some relief. And I know, that's how hard you try to cover toxic people. Into some smoke I want to turn. That's how desperate I am. You never know until you feel the same. And that was Untitled by Miley, whose poetry I really like. One of the Poets Lighthouse's very first Lighthouse. She was the very first to ask about submissions, and she was the very first submission I ever read. The way she writes about love, she captures it very beautifully. But just like every dance to every song, it has to come to an end. You come to a point where you see love for what it truly is, because Cupid has finally ran out of arrows. And that brings us back to Elsa Gidlow in her poem, This is not love. This is not love. We cannot call it love. Love would make me aware of infinite things, drive me down the spirit's vast abyss, and through the narrow fastness of pain. This is not love, yet it holds loveliness beyond mere pleasure. Peace and passion both grow from the kiss with which I paint drab hours. It is not love. Love is for the gods, and our more godlike moments. Yet, when stars withhold their splendor, why should we not light candles to warm with kindly mortal flames the all-enfolding, cold, immortal night? And down goes Goliath, down goes that bad love. And you feel a new kind of power within yourself, indestructible. You feel like nothing could move you. And I am sure that's how our next poet must have felt. Dorothy Parker, a founding member of the Algonquin round table with her poem, Godspeed. Oh, seek, my love, your newer way. I'll not be left in sorrow. So long as I have yesterday, go take your damn tomorrow. Godspeed and good riddance. I'm sure that's how our next poet, Andrea Hollander, who was born in Berlin, Germany, must have felt when she ran into her ex after many years. Her poem, X. Long after I married you, I found myself in his city, and I heard him call my name. Each of us amazed, we headed to the cafe we used to haunt in our days together. We sat by a window across the paneled room from the table that had witnessed hours of our clipped voices and sharp silences. Instead of coffee, my old habit in those days, I ordered hot chocolate. Your drink, dark and dense the way you take it, without the swirl of frothy cream I like. He told me of his troubled marriage, his 2 difficult daughters, their spiteful mother, how she tricked him and turned into someone he didn't really know. I listened and listened, glad all over again to be rid of him, and sipped the thick, brown sweetness slowly as I could, licking my lips, making it last. And that's one point of tangency in love's circle. But of course, as we get older, our love changes. The more our love strengthens, the more our love grows. The more we understand love. And our next poet writes about how this type of love changes as we grow up. And this is Emmanuel Xavier with his poem, Stepfather. He forgets that he used to call me mariconcito, that I harbored years of hatred toward him while hoping to find my real father. My childhood memories of him reminding me that I was my mother's son, not his. I tried to poison him once and scattered sharp nails inside the shoes in his closet. By the time one of his sons died of AIDS, I was already lost in contempt for the man I blamed for everything. There was the time I was in love and he met my boyfriend. Now he forgets to go to the bathroom or where he is, but he still remembers Michael and asks about him. I help him walk slowly outdoors to step outside the prison cell that is the tiny apartment with no windows in which I grew up abused by both of them. He barely understands. His fate has been torture. I know that I cannot be his savior. I used to pray for him to die, but here he is slowly fading. In his eyes I see that he learned to love me and wishes he could take it all back. He is unable to recall those drunken nights and hateful words. I should do the same. I left a long time ago, but he still remains haunted by the little boy who wanted to belong. Like him, I want to forget that we made mistakes and caused so much pain. I need for both of us to remember how he taught me how to ride a bike and how to swim and told me, better late than never, that he loved me and was proud of all I had done. I have to help him settle into his favorite chair and let him know that I forgive him. There is a place somewhere where he will call me hijo, and I will know him as my dad. And that's how it was being raised by old-fashioned Mexican men. It's a tough love, and there's a lot of machismo. There's a lot of masculinity that we shell ourselves around. And it's tough being raised in a home with the undeserving love. And it's not asking for much, even less than the bare minimum. And I know there's people with bad relationships towards the parents, or some people don't even talk to the parents. We do have to remember that this is the first time our parents are dealing with life as well. It's our first time, and it's so often are we focused on ourselves and how hard life is for us and how hard we're trying. We tend to forget that our parents are doing the same. So we can't let the love we were raised on be based on the first impression they made of us. We should make it our own, and that includes forgiveness, as hard as it is. And this leads us into our next poet, Amy Fleury, in her poem, Ablution. Because one must be naked to get clean. My dad shrugs out of his pajama shirt steps from his boxers and into the tub as I brace him, whose long illness has made him shed modesty too. Seated on the plastic bench, he holds the soap like a caught fish in his lap, waiting for me to test the water's heat on my wrist before turning the nozzle toward his pale skin. He leans over to be doused, then hands me the soap so I might scrub his shoulders and neck, suds sluicing from spine to buttock cleft. Like a child, he wants a washcloth to cover his eyes while I lather a palmful of pearlescent shampoo into his craniotomy-scarred scalp and then rinse clear whatever soft hair is left. Our voices echo in the spray and steam of this room, where once long ago he knelt at the tub's edge to pour cups of bath water over my head. He reminds me to wash behind his ears, and when he judges himself to be clean, I turn off the tap. He grips the safety bar, steadies himself and stands. Turning to me, his body is dripping and frail and pink, and although I am nearly 40, he has this one last thing to teach me. I hold open the towel to receive him. And unfortunately, there comes the day where we won't have our parents anymore, and it'll feel cold as winter, like the month of December. And that's similar to what our next poet, a native of Fullerton, California, might have wanted. The poet Michael Miller and his poem, December. I want to be a passenger in your car again, and shut my eyes while you sit at the wheel, awake and assured in your own private world, seeing all the lines on the road ahead, down a long stretch of empty highway, without any other faces in sight. I want to be a passenger in your car again, and put my life back in your hands. And that was December, by Michael Miller. But we can't go back in time. At least not now. Maybe one day. But even those that we leave in the past, but still live for today. And that brings us to our next poet, Lee Young Lee. In his poem, This Hour and What Is Dead. Tonight my brother, in heavy boots, is walking through bare rooms over my head, opening and closing doors. What could he be looking for in an empty house? What could he possibly need there in heaven? Does he remember his earth, his birthplace set to torches? His love for me feels like spilled water running back to its vessel. At this hour, what is dead is restless and what is living is burning. Someone tell him he should sleep now. My father keeps a light on by our bed and readies for our journey. He mends 10 holes in the knees of 5 pairs of boys' pants. His love for me is like his sewing, various colors and too much thread, the stitching uneven, but the needle pierces clean through with each stroke of his hand. At this hour, what is dead is worried and what is living is fugitive. Someone tell him he should sleep now. God, that old furnace keeps talking with his mouth of teeth, a beard stained at feast and his breath of gasoline, airplane, human ash. His love for me feels like fire, feels like doves, feels like river water. At this hour, what is dead is helpless, kind, and helpless, while the Lord lives. Someone tell the Lord to leave me alone. I've had enough of his love that feels like burning and flying and running away. But then you have someone who might welcome one more night. And that brings us our next poet, from Brooklyn, New York, Megan O'Rourke, with her poem, The Night Where You No Longer Live. Was it like lifting a veil? And was that grass treacherous? The green grass? Did you think of your own mother? Was it like a virus? Did the software flicker? And was this the beginning? Was it like that? Was there gas station food? And was it a long trip? And is there sun there? Or drones? Or punishment? Or growth? Was it a blackout? And did you still create me? And what was that like on the first day of my life? Were we two from the start? And was our time an entrance or an ending? Did we stand in the heated room? Did we look at the painting? Did the snow appear cold? Were our feet red with it, with the wet snow? And then what were our names? Did you love me, or did I misunderstand? Is it terrible? Do you intend to come back? Do you hear the world's keening? Will you stay the night? And that is the second point of tangency. Some hearts like to put on sundresses and dance. Others like to drink. But the thing is, this love is our new love. It's the one we created. And it's the one we put our faith in. So let's dive into the different shades of what this love can be. With our next poet, Moja Kaf, with her poem, Lowering of the Gaze. Tell the believing men to lower their gazes and guard their orifices. And tell the believing women to lower their gazes and guard their orifices. Quran 24:30 and 31. I love the man of lowered gaze and the woman of lowered gaze. And I love the man who looks hungrily and the woman who looks hungrily. I have been the man with a hungry gaze and the man of iron restraint, whose eyes leave what is covered. I have been the woman with the ravenous mouth and the woman with the disciplined will, like an axe sharply splitting wood, like an axe at the moment it is lifted, poised, in that pause before descent. And I am the gaze and the pause and the wood that is split. And now we are wanting what we want. We tell the waitress, hey, that's not what I ordered, even though some of us are deathly afraid to do so. But in time, we get to know ourselves a bit better. We find that confidence, and we shine brighter than any star could, millions of miles away. And so let's go into our next poem by Ray Armantrout, one of the founding members of the West Coast group of language poets, with her poem, Asymmetries. I'm thinking about you, and you're humming while cutting a piece of wood. I'm positive you aren't thinking about me, which is fine, as long as you aren't thinking about yourself. I know and love the way you inhabit this house, and the occasions we mutually create. But I don't know the man you picture when you see yourself walking around the world inside your head, and I'm jealous of the attention you pay that person whom I suspect of being devious. And it's easy to be overcome by all these intrusive thoughts, so we always have to just fight them off. But sometimes, just think to yourself one question that you do know the answer to. And Rachel Sherwood shows this in her poem, Occupation. The man who told me about war said, it's the only thing that keeps us busy. I thought of your fingers on my back, counting the vertebrae one by one. The only thing? And we would all love to love in this type of confidence. But sometimes, there's love that has to be hidden, has to be kept a secret, because it's looked down upon. But when you try to love for someone else, it tears you apart. And you should learn to just love what you love, and want what you want. And this brings us to our next poet, from Oklahoma, Tina Chang, with her poem, Love. I am haunted by how much our mothers do not know. How a republic falls because of its backhanded deals, stairwell secrets. My mother does not know I am lying with a man who is darker than me. That we do not have names for how we truly treat our bodies. What we do with them, the other possesses me. Without him, the perception of me fails to exist. My mother now is taking her shears and cutting through live shrimp. When I was a child, she peeled each flushed grape until only the pale fleshy bead remained. She placed them onto a plate in one shining mound, de-seated, in front of me. How I sucked and bled the fruit of all their juice, hypnotized in front of the buzz of television in each version of my childhood. I am her daughter. This is certain. I am lying down with a man who is darker than me, and maybe this home is my real republic. My face is my face, or is it stolen from my mother and hung over mine? If I were a dream, you could say my countenance was a string of flickering lights made of teeth, or an expression unraveling like a carpet into a narrow river of another life. Does truth matter when it's floating face up or face down? The answer to this makes all the difference. and that was Love by Tina Chang. And so you see how just really complex love does become. And, one might want it to be checkers, but it's a game of chess. And most times, nobody even wants to play a game. They just want to love. And that brings us to our next poet, Amy Nezuko Matao, with her poem, Chess. Exactly 4 different men have tried to teach me how to play. I can never tell the difference between a rook or bishop, but I knew the horse meant knight. And that made sense to me, because a horse is night. Soot hoof and nostril, dark as a sabled evening with no stars, bats, or moon blooms. It's a night in Ohio where a man sleeps alone 1 week, and the next, the woman he will eventually marry leans her body into his for the first time. Leans a kind of faith, too, filled with white crickets and bouquets of wild carrot. And the months and the honeyed years after that will make all the light and dark squares feel like tiles, for a kitchen they can one day build together. Every turn, every sacrificial move, all the decoys, the castling, the deflections, these will be both riotous and unruly, the exact opposite of what she thought she ever wanted in the end game of her days. And that was chess. Sometimes the king and queens just want to be alone. And it's funny how one might look at a game of chess as extremely complicated, but to someone else, it's easier than checkers. But what's not easy is offering your all to someone, putting yourself out there like a vein, exposed, vulnerable. And that's what William Butler Yeats wrote about, who is widely considered one of the greatest poets of the English language. With his poem, 8 Wishes for the Cloths of Heaven. Had I the heavens embroidered cloths, enwrought with golden and silver light, the blue and the dim and the dark cloths of night and light and the half-light, I would spread the cloths under your feet. But I, being poor, have only my dreams. I have spread my dreams under your feet. Tread softly, because you tread on my dreams. So there are people who are just willing to lay everything they've got to give you a floor to walk on. But there will be days where love will give us the sun, and we'll still ask about the moon. So let's go into our next poem by Holly J. Hughes, with a poem, Mind Wanting More. Only a beige slat of sun above the horizon, like a shade pulled not quite down. Otherwise, clouds, sea rippled here and there, birds reluctant to fly. The mind wants a shaft of sun to stir the gray porridge of clouds, an osprey to stitch sea to sky with its barred wings, some dramatic music, a symphony, perhaps a Chinese gong. But the mind always wants more than it has. One more bright day of sun, one more clear night in bed, with a moon, one more hour, to get the words right. One more chance for the heart in hiding to emerge from its thicket and dried grasses, as if this quiet day with its tentative light weren't enough, as if joy weren't strewn all around. And we have reached the 3rd point of tangency, of love's circle. And let's move on to a point where love touches the soul in all the right places. Let's start with our next poet, who was a devotee of the god Krishna, and she also lived in northern India. The poet Mirabai, and her poem, Love Has Stained. Love has stained my body to the color of the one who holds up mountains. When I dressed in the world's 5 fabrics, I only played hide and seek. For disguised though I was, the lifting one caught me, and seeing his beauty, I offered him all that I am. Friends, let those whose beloved is absent write letters. Mine dwells in the heart, and neither enters nor leaves. Mira has given herself to her lord Girid Harar. Day or night, she serves only him. And so you find yourself at a point in your life where love to you is this godly feeling. You feel like a god. And that leads us to our next poet, Heather Crystal, in her poem, Summer. Today, you find yourself guilty as the rim you split an egg against. You press charges. You spell out your name like the letters are medals or good conduct in a bad war. The night moves in with you into your room until even your sleep is not your own. Through the window, the grass tells you to give up, and you are trying, but on the other hand, things keep you. The moon, the cars. You undress yourself more deeply down like this is the way to get to the future. You let the darkness medically examine you. So much can be put back together. To burn the house down, to burn the house up, it's the same problem in any direction. Your matter. You turn on the light. And a love for the gods can be a love for yourself, and it could be a love for someone else. When in love, the laws of physics don't apply to you, as it doesn't to Alison C. Rowland's in her poem, Love in Outer Space. Because the bee in my bonnet is the bee in my bed, who I can't and I won't stop bumping. We do the Humpty Hump, my big nose nestled in her sassafras. At attention, we round each other out. At ease, her peach is a galaxy. Now and later is a square. I quietly hold on my tongue, my mouth an empty gesture, spaced out between her legs. I am an astronaut. The gravity of my offense adds up to a rational number. When the heavens are free from light, I sit desire on my lap. She is stardust, and I, as it were, am impossible. When she asks for space, she is the future. When she asks for a room, it is the end. I place before her chutes, ladders, and whatever else might fall from the sky. And the gravity from the love of two lovers in space will pull them together, whether it be staring into their eyes, holding their hands, or holding on to them, and whether it's making love to someone or making them breakfast. To Tom Gunn, it is a hug. In his poem, The Hug. It was your birthday. We had drunk and dined half of the night with our old friend, who showed us in the end to a bed I reached in one drunk stride. Already I lay snug and drowsy with the wine dozed on one side. I dozed, I slept. My sleep broke on a hug. Suddenly, from behind, in which the full length of our bodies pressed, Urine stepped to my heel, my shoulder blades against your chest. It was not sex, but I could feel the whole strength of your body set, or brace, to mine, and locking me to you, as if we were still 22, when our grand passion had not yet become familial. My quick sleep had deleted all of intervening time and place. I only knew the stay of your secure, firm, dry embrace. And that was The Hug by Tom Gunn. And it's beautiful to me the way love takes this godly form, something that was always there, but something you weren't able to see until now. And our next poet captures it very beautifully with his poem, A Few Delicate Needles by Rolf Jacobson. It's so delicate, the light, and there's so little of it. The dark is huge, just delicate needles, the light, and an endless night. And it has such a long way to go through such desolate space. So let's be gentle with it. Cherish it. So it will come again in the morning. We hope. And that's something I love looking at. When light gets frozen, it gets captured at an angle. It becomes like a floating glass that appears to be so delicate that you might break it if you stare too long. But sometimes you can't be afraid to love. Someone once told me we have to die with our passion, hand in hand. Shout it from the top of your lungs. Never shut up about it. If you love something, declare it. And that brings us to Terence Hayes with his poem, Wind in a Box. After Lorca. I want to always sleep beneath a bright red blanket of leaves. I want to never wear a coat of ice. I want to learn to walk without blinking. I want to outlive the turtle and the turtle's father, the stone. I want a mouthful of permissions and a pink glistening bud. If the wildflower and anthill can return after sleeping each season, I want to walk out of this house wearing nothing but wind. I want to greet you. I want to wait for the bus with you weighing less than a chill. I want to fight off the bolts of great lightning, the alcoves and winding paths of your hair. I want to fight off the damp nudgings of snow. I want to fight off the wind. I want to be the wind, and I want to fight off the wind with its sagging banner of isolation, its swinging screen doors, its gilded boxes, and neatly folded pamphlets of noise. I want to fight off the dual straight lines of 2x4s and endings, your disapprovals, your doubts and regulations, your carbon copies. If the locust can abandon its suit, I want a brand new name. I want the pepper's fury and the salt's tenderness. I want the virtue of the evening rain, but not its gossip. I want the moon's intuition, but not its questions. I want the malice of nothing on earth. I want to enter every room in a strange electrified setting and find you there. I want your lips around the bell of flesh at the bottom of my ear. I want to be the mirror, but not the nightstand. I do not want to be the light switch. I do not want to be the yellow photograph or book of poems. When I leave this body, woman, I want to be pure flame. I want to be your song. And when you reach a point of this type of love, there really is no going back. You jump right off the cliff of the moon, and they open their arms back on earth, and you just fall right into them. That's a hell of a way to fall into love, and it's a hell of a way to go out. They will continue to love you, even after. Just like our next poet, Charles Bernstein, with his poem, All the Whiskey in Heaven. Not for all the whiskey in heaven, not for all the flies in Vermont, not for all the tears in the basement, not for a million trips to Mars. Not if you paid me in diamonds, not if you paid me in pearls. Not if you gave me your pinky ring, not if you gave me your curls. Not for all the fire in hell, not for all the blue in the sky, not for an empire of my own. Not even for peace of mind. No, never. I'll never stop loving you. Not till my heart beats its last. And even then, in my words and my songs, I will love you all over again. And you know, whether it's a bad love, a good love, any type of love really, it's people can't help loving who they love. And that brings us to our next poet, Nikki Giovanni, with her poem, Resignation. I love you, because the earth turns round the sun, because the north wind blows north, sometimes, because the Pope is Catholic and most rabbis Jewish, because the winters flow into springs and the air clears after a storm, because only my love for you, despite the charms of gravity, keeps me from falling off this earth into another dimension. I love you because it is the natural order of things. I love you like the habit I picked up in college of sleeping through lectures or saying I'm sorry when I get stopped for speeding because I drink a glass of water in the morning and chain smoke cigarettes all through the day. Because I take my coffee black and my milk with chocolate. Because you keep my feet warm, though my life a mess. I love you because I don't want it any other way. I am helpless in my love for you. It makes me so happy to hear you call my name. I am amazed you can resist, locking me in an echo chamber where your voice reverberates through the four walls, sending me into spasmodic ecstasy. I love you because it's been so good for so long, that if I didn't love you, I'd have to be born again. And that is not a theological statement. I am pitiful in my love for you. The Dells tell me love is so simple. The thought, though, of you sends indescribably delicious multitudinous thrills throughout and through in my body. I love you because no two snowflakes are alike, and it is possible if you stand tippy-toe to walk between the raindrops. I love you because I am afraid of the dark and I can't sleep in the light. Because I rub my eyes when I wake up in the morning and find you there. Because you, with all your magic powers, were determined that I should love you. Because there was nothing for you but that I would love you. I love you because you made me want to love you more than I love my privacy, my freedom, my commitments, and responsibilities. I love you because I changed my life to love you. Because you saw me one Friday afternoon and decided that I would love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Nikki Giovanni. Nikki Giovanni with all the love just pouring right out. And then you have those who are still waiting to open the valve. They are waiting for that one moment, just like Federico Garcia Lorca was, in his poem, To Find a Kiss of Yours. To find a kiss of yours, what would I give? A kiss that strayed from your lips, dead to love. My lips taste the dirt of shadows. To gaze at your dark eyes, what would I give? Dawns of rainbow garnet fanning open before God. The stars blinded them one morning in May. And to kiss your pure thighs, what would I give? Raw rose crystal, sediment of the sun. And then you have a love that doesn't ask for anything. It doesn't ask questions because the answers are in the way they stare at you. And that brings us to our next poet, Lee Young Lee, in his poem, Adore. You lie asleep beside me, one hand on the pillow and cupped at your mouth, as if to tell a secret, as if you might say in your sleep what you could never find words for awake, or as if you called across a din of other voices, or the howl of empty space, calling because there are no bells to strike the hours where we live, and I must know when to kneel and when to rise, what to praise and what to curse. I must know how to bless and how to receive blessing. One hand in your mouth and cupped at your mouth as if you spoke a word you'd kept to yourself all day, waiting for your most unguarded moment to say, a thought meant for me, meant to be shared between us this way, sealed this way. A secret no voice can carry without destroying, a word without carriage, except conveyed in the peace of your body and face. A word born out of your deepest rest, a word which only my own deepest breathing and happiest rest beside you, face to face, free of thinking, can sustain. Maybe you had to be asleep to say what you knew to be true, or what you had to say you might not could bear to hear, and so you must say so softly, I must close my eyes, I must turn inward to where you've made a room and a bed inside of me, to receive it. You say, we cannot look upon love's face without dying, so we face each other to see love's look, and thus third-person souls suddenly stand at gaze, and the lover and the beloved, second and first persons, you and I to eye, are born. But such refraction, multiplying gazes, strews love's eyes upon the objects of the world, as upon the objects of our room. My brush, hairpin, mirror, book, your loving look finds each of these things lovable, I can see. Things by any other measure poor, you look crowns to make them your heart's royalty. Face, blush, breath, eyes, evanescent, pledged to death, nowhere stored. Love's look gathers within its fondling to adore. The strewing and gathering of love's face, of love's gaze, and only this, begun in death's audience, is the founding action. Call it the fundamental paradise. Did I say paradise? I meant paradox. The fundamental paradox to the breaths we breathe, the thoughts we witness, the kisses we exchange, and every poem you write. And I feel once you reach this type of love, it opens your eyes to see a bit more shades of color. Our next poet saw that same type of love. We have D.H. Lawrence and his poem, Gloire de Dijon. When she rises in the morning, I linger to watch her. She spreads the bath cloth underneath the window, and the sunbeams catch her, glistening white on the shoulders, while down her sides the mellow golden shadow glows as she stoops to the sponge, and her swung breasts sway like full-blown yellow Gloire de Dijon roses. She drips herself with water, and her shoulders glisten as silver. They crumple up like wet and falling roses, and I listen for the sluicing of the rain-disheveled petals. In the window full of sunlight concentrates her golden shadow, fold on fold, until it glows as mellow as the glory roses. And that was by one of my personal favorite poets, D.H. Lawrence. And that was the fourth point of Tangency in Love's Circle. This has been Ants Domen, and this was the Poet's Lighthouse. Until next time.